So you have two choices this week. You can fill it out in the Google Doc, or you can do individual days in the Google form. I'm going to walk you through how to do the Google form because for a lot of you that is new. So when you start, I need you to fill in your name and your section number. Put 801 or 802 because I have to look through everybody's numbers and this is an easier way for me to do it. The first thing that we're going to talk about today is showing versus telling in writing. So this first passage is pretty short, and what you're going to do is give your overall impression of the character and what is she like based on the descriptions that Dahl writes. And then you're going to go through and you're going to tell which part of the passage is showing, which part is telling, and then which details does the author use. Okay, so let's go ahead and read the very first part. The Voyage Out by Roald Dahl. She was eating an orange at the time I noticed suddenly that she was not eating it in a normal way. In the first place, she had speared it from the fruit bowl with her fork instead of taking it in her fingers. And now, with the knife and fork, she was making a series of neat incisions in the skin all around the orange. Then, very delicately, using the points of her knife and fork, she peeled the skin away in 8 separate pieces, leaving the bare fruit beautifully exposed. Still, using the knife and fork, she separated the juicy segments and began to eat them slowly, one by one, with her fork. "Do you always eat an orange like that?" I said. "Of course." "May I ask why?" "I never touch anything. I eat with my fingers," she said. "Good Lord, don't you really?" "Never. I haven't since I was 22. "Is there a reason for that?" I asked her. "Of course there's a reason. Fingers are filthy." "But you wash your hands." "I don't sterilize them," Miss Treffis said. "Nor do you. They're full of bugs, disgusting, dirty things. Fingers. Just think what you do with them." So the first question here is, what is your impression of this character and what is she like? So I noticed that Dahl did several things here. He used the character's words, he used the description from the narrator, and then he also gave us the narrator telling us exactly what he thinks of her. So I can use all of those ideas in my answer here. So my first impression of this character, she is eating a fruit, an orange, with a fork and knife. I don't think that that's normal, and neither does the narrator, and he tells us that he doesn't think that's the narrator. So impressions would be maybe she is stuck up, maybe she's very strange and odd. So I'm going to answer that here in the first question. So she is odd and she hates germs. Maybe she has she was sick or something like that. Maybe she's very scared of doing anything that would hurt her. Okay, so I'm going to use this same passage to answer the next questions. This little graphic here shows me what it means to show versus tell. So if I'm telling someone, I am specifically telling them what to think. And I'm not like explaining, I'm not giving them a detailed picture. I'm getting straight to the point. So what I noticed here at the beginning of the passage is, he says, she was eating an orange at the time I noticed suddenly that she was not eating in a normal way. So right there, our narrator says she's not normal. Okay, so I'm going to stop and I'm going to highlight that and I'm actually going to copy that down where my answer is. So that's what he's telling me. Now, Showing is very different from telling, where showing gives us a full picture and lets us decide as the reader what we think of the character. So the rest of the passage really reveals, after that first sentence, he really just leaves it open-ended. Although he does tell us in the beginning how he feels about it, he just kind of explains what she's doing and then lets us decide if she's weird. Maybe she has some kind of phobia of germs that we learned down here. Those are all showing. So down here I'm just going to write the rest of the passage. Finally, my last question on this section is, choose all that apply. Which kinds of details is Dahl using to show us what's happening in this scene? I'm going to start at the bottom of this list, dialogue. That's going to be the easiest one for me to recognize because it's going to have quotation marks around it. So here I notice this whole section is dialogue. I'm going to go back down here and I'm going to select that. Now actions, what someone or something does. Does he tell me how she eats the orange? He says, and now with a knife and fork, she's making incisions. She eats this, separates each part and eats it with the fork. So yes, he tells me about the action. The last thing, sensory details, how something or someone looks, sounds, smells, tastes, or feels. So then I have to go back up to the top. Here I'm wondering, is this enough? In the first place, she had speared it from the fruit bowl. Speared gives me a very distinct picture of what something looks like. Okay, I can picture down to the very detail what she is doing. It says very delicately. So I can picture all of those things. So I'm going to say yes, the way that something looks. He describes word for word what she's doing with this fork and knife